I do want to get to your business background in a little bit, but you decided to announce your candidacy before you heard or anyone heard that Senator Mitt Romney if he was seeking re-election or not. He announced last week
Yeah.
he's not. First, what's your reaction to the news?
Yeah, we did. I jumped into the race late May, and for the past 4 months, I've been campaigning effectively across the state. And I was the only candidate, that jumped in, that had the courage to take on the establishment. I've done it time and time again. I've stood up to the establishment. I was one of the few mayors in our state that said no to mask mandates and vaccine mandates. I've cut taxes. I've said no to ESG. I've said no to inappropriate materials in schools and fought to rid our schools of those materials. And so that's really something that has characterized my career. And again, why so many people had come to me and asked me to stand up and run against Mitt Romney. I was not happy with the record. I highlighted it from day one and called him out on his voting record, the promises he made about putting us on a path to a balanced budget, ending illegal immigration, stopping federal spending, and appointing conservative justices or confirming conservative justices was just not that. That was not his record. 5 years later, it was in fact just the opposite. And so people were really frustrated with that. As I toured the state, I heard also that they were very concerned about the lack of representation. It wasn't just differences of policy and his voting record, but that genuinely local officials like myself and reaching out to the junior senator of our state just weren't getting the attention that they deserved. And that's something that I want to be able to rectify and actually representing folks when I'm back in DC. But in light of all this, to answer your question just the reaction, it really didn't surprise me. Some of the polling data we saw showed that Mitt Romney, and especially after we entered the race and offered a true alternative to him, he had gone down considerably from the 50% down into the 40s, and some of the polling data even reflected about 30% favorability with Republicans. So that data, coupled with just anecdotal evidence of me traveling the state and speaking with so many Utahns that were not happy with Mitt's voting record and representation, I really wasn't that surprised that he came to the decision that he's not going to seek re-election.
Mitt Romney is a moderate Republican. He's criticized the direction of the GOP publicly. And as a leader, as a Republican, where do you see yourself differing from him?
Oh, quite substantially. I mean, if you go to my website at trentstaggs.com, I say my focus, there are three themes really that I want to be able to champion in DC, and that's smaller government, safer families, and a stronger economy. And on the smaller government front, I think is number one for a reason. I've always fought for smaller government in the spheres of government where I am serving, and we'll do the same back in DC. We need people that understand that. With my record, or votes that Mitt had taken where I might differ. I would not have voted for trillions more in spending. The infrastructure plan that he voted for the omnibus spending, this most recent debt ceiling deal. I mean, our Senator Mike Lee put a letter together to the Biden administration and said, I've got 42 other Republicans here. We're not going to raise the debt ceiling unless we get substantial spending cuts and budget reforms. And Mitt Romney was not one of those 42 names. He would not sign that letter. I would have gladly signed on with our senior senator here, Mike Lee, to that letter and really hold the line with respect to spending. We have to have people back there that will do that, because 33 trillion in debt, the trillions in spending that we do every single year is out of control, and it's really exacerbated or led to the inflationary environment that we have today. And that's what I'm seeing and hearing from Utahns, is it's just really crushing them. I mean, $600, $700, $800 or more every month is what it's costing folks here to be able to deal with all the inflation, the impact of inflation in their household budgets. So that's a huge, huge area of differentiation. I think I would very much not have voted for the most recent, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. I think she's a very radical judge and does not interpret the Constitution along the lines where it needs to be. She's very activist, and that record was demonstrated through the confirmation hearings. So that's another point of differentiation. And I think just generally with respect to wokeism and how it's just infiltrated our everything from our school system to our military. Mitt Romney was all too eager and glad to march with Black Lives Matter, to mask up. And look, I'm very much in support of our law enforcement. I've got the endorsement of the State Fraternal Order of Police, which I'm very honored and humbled to have. And so I think along those issues too, that kind of socially, that I would really be a much different senator than Mitt Romney. I think I would emulate Mike Lee. He's somebody who I would hope to be an ally and work with in the Senate. And so those conservatives like Mike Lee or Rand Paul, Rick Scott, Ron Johnson, just to name a few, those are the senators that I would hope to be able to work with and kind of mirror, I think, more closely match their voting record.